This is Joe Biden, the President of the United States. On February 8th, 2024, the investigation into Joe Biden's classified document scandal came to a close when Special Counsel Robert Hur released a scathing report. In the report, Special Counsel Hur writes, "Our investigation uncovered evidence that President Biden willfully retained and disclosed classified materials after his vice presidency when he was a private citizen. These materials included marked classified documents about military and foreign policy in Afghanistan. These documents from fall 2009 have classification markings up to the top secret/sensitive compartmented information level, or SCI. So in January 2023, when the scandal broke, many, including myself, pointed to this video of Joe Biden backing his '67 Corvette into his garage and assumed that the classified documents in question were sitting among this pile of junk. And all of us were right. These documents were ultimately found in Mr. Biden's Delaware home in a badly damaged box in the garage, near a collapsed dog crate, a dog bed, a Zappos box, an empty bucket, a broken lamp wrapped with duct tape, potting soil, and synthetic firewood."
People know I take classified documents and classified information seriously.
The report also notes that those documents marked top secret/SCI were found in a box in Mr. Biden's Delaware garage that contained other materials of great personal significance to him and that he appears to have personally used and accessed. So this dilapidated box, perfect for storing classified materials, was in his garage. Not only did Joe Biden know it was in his garage, but it appears that he was the one that put it there, because that same box found in his garage used to be in his home office next to his desk. On a side note, Joe Biden, who constantly touts his experience with foreign policy, doesn't know how to spell Afghanistan. In their investigation, the special counsel's office found that Biden would spell it Afganastan, and that he repeatedly used this or a similar misspelling in handwritten notes as vice president, and before that in notes he took as a senator dating back to 1980. Joe Biden was never the brightest bulb, and now he's the leader of the free world. God help us all. And it wasn't just his garage. They found classified material piled all around his house. Other materials included notebooks containing Mr. Biden's handwritten entries about issues of national security and foreign policy implicating sensitive intelligence sources and methods. FBI agents recovered these materials from the garage, offices, and basement den in Mr. Biden's Wilmington, Delaware home. Evidence shows that he knew the notebooks contained classified information. Mr. Biden wrote down obviously sensitive information discussed during intelligence briefings with President Obama and meetings in the White House Situation Room about matters of national security and military and foreign policy. Some evidence also suggests Mr. Biden knew he could not keep classified handwritten notes at his home after leaving office. Mr. Biden, who had decades of experience with classified information, was deeply familiar with the measures taken to safeguard classified information and the need for those measures to prevent harm to national security. The report goes into great detail that Joe Biden knew he wasn't allowed to have classified material in his home, but he did it anyway. When Mr. Biden left office, he also knew his staff decided to store note cards containing his classified notes in a secure compartmented information facility, or SCIF, at the National Archives. And he knew his notebooks contained the same type of classified information. Twice in 2017, Mr. Biden visited the National Archives SCIF to review his classified note cards while writing his book. Yet he kept his notebooks, which also contained classified information, in unlocked drawers at home. He had strong motivations to do so and to ignore the rules for properly handling the classified information in his notebooks. He consulted the notebooks liberally during hours of discussions with his ghostwriter and viewed them as highly private and valued possessions with which he was unwilling to part. Now, Joe Biden has since blamed his staff for improperly storing classified documents around his home and offices. But as he told his ghostwriter during a recorded interview, the same staff who arranged to secure his classified note cards didn't even know he had retained possession of his classified notebooks. In other words, Joe Biden was hiding classified material. Nothing to see here, folks. So Joe Biden knew he wasn't allowed to keep his notebooks, but did it anyway. And then his excuse for breaking the law was, "But other people did it." During our interview with him, Mr. Biden was emphatic, declaring that his notebooks are my property and that every president before me has done the exact same thing. That is, kept handwritten classified materials after leaving office. He also cited the diaries that President Reagan kept in his private home after leaving office, noting that they included classified information. Of course, these are not presidential notebooks, as Joe Biden was only the vice president. He stole them from the White House, and the excuse he gave was, "Ronald Reagan did it." And that does not hold water. Then the report also found that Mark Zwanitzer, the ghostwriter of Joe Biden's book, Promise Me Dad, also broke the law. After learning of the special counsel's appointment in this matter, Mr. Biden's ghostwriter deleted audio recordings he had created of his discussions with Mr. Biden during the writing of Mr. Biden's 2017 memoir. The recordings had significant evidentiary value. So Joe Biden's ghostwriter is being charged with obstruction of justice, right? Right? While the ghostwriter admitted that he deleted the recordings after he learned of the special counsel's investigation, the evidence falls short of proving beyond a reasonable doubt that he intended to impede an investigation, which is the intent required by law. In his interviews, the ghostwriter offered plausible, innocent reasons for why he deleted the recordings. I'm dying to hear these plausible, innocent reasons for deleting evidence. But my guess is that he wanted to protect Joe Biden just in case he accidentally had provided the ghostwriter with classified material, which is a thing that the report actually says happened. And while reading his notebook entries aloud during meetings with his ghostwriter, Mr. Biden sometimes skipped over presumptively classified material and warned his ghostwriter the entries might be classified. But at least 3 times, Mr. Biden read from classified entries aloud to his ghostwriter nearly verbatim. And if the ghostwriter had an inclination that Joe Biden had been reading from classified material and it was captured on audio files that he deleted, that makes it even worse. But instead, the special counsel is treating this as an oopsie-doopsie. We considered whether to charge the ghostwriter with obstruction of justice, but we believe the evidence would be insufficient to obtain a conviction and therefore declined to prosecute him. So despite the fact that the investigation found that Biden willfully retained hundreds of pages of top secret and classified documents, and despite the fact that he shared classified information with someone who is not authorized nor had any type of security clearance, the special counsel's office concluded that no criminal charges are warranted in this matter. 2-tier justice system. I know you're shocked. So at an event in Leesburg, Virginia, Joe Biden decided to take a victory lap.
The special counsel released their findings today about their look into my handling of classified documents. I was pleased to see they reached the conclusion I believed and knew all along they would, that there are no charges should be brought in this case.
Of course, we all knew all along that Joe Biden's DOJ was never going to allow charges to be brought against Joe Biden or anyone involved in the scandal. However, special counsel's reasoning for not bringing charges was a bombshell that will affect everyone's perception of Joe Biden for the remainder of his political career. Mr. Biden will likely present himself to the jury, as he did during his interview with our office, as a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. So basically, Joe Biden was cleared by the special counsel for reasons of mental incompetence. Mr. Biden is someone for whom many jurors will want to search for reasonable doubt. it would be difficult to convince a jury that they should convict him. By then, a former president who will be at least well into his 80s, of a serious felony that requires a mental state of willfulness. So on one hand, Joe Biden's mental state would make it impossible to prosecute him. But on the other hand, he's totally fine to be president of the United States. Makes sense to me, what's your problem? Biden's memory also appeared to have significant limitations, both at the time he spoke to Ghostwriter in 2017, as evidenced by the recorded conversations, and today, as evidenced by his recorded interview with our office. Mr. Biden's recorded conversations with Ghostwriter from 2017 are often painfully slow, with Mr. Biden struggling to remember events and straining at times to read and relay his own notebook entries. Which is not a surprise, considering that Joe Biden can barely read a teleprompter. In his interview with our office, Mr. Biden's memory was worse. He did not remember when he was vice president, forgetting on the first day of the interview when his term ended, and forgetting on the second day of the interview when his term began. And this is bad, like really bad. This is not like trying to remember what month and year you started your first job in fast food. This is about Joe Biden remembering when he was vice president. Again, it's really bad, but it's not remotely surprising.
We got to finish the job meetings, $35 insulin, not just for the, Medicare, but like we originally had, and they wouldn't continue it. When we pushed all these programs, I said I'm going to be a president for everybody, whether they live in a red state or a green state. And making Roe v. Wade the law of the land. The law of the land.
And referring to Roe v. Wade as Roe v. Ward, or calling blue states green states, is not helping Joe Biden and the Democrats claim that he's mentally fit to run the most powerful country in the world. Not that he ever was in the first place. So Joe Biden scheduled a last-minute primetime press conference to A, address the American people about the report's findings, and B, reassure Americans that he's mentally healthy enough to remain president. And both of which were a miserable failure.
I've seen the headlines since the report was released about my willful retention of documents. These assertions are not only misleading, they're just plain wrong.
No, that's a lie. The report's executive summary literally states, "Our investigation uncovered evidence that President Biden willfully retained and disclosed classified materials after his vice presidency when he was a private citizen."
And all the stuff that was in my home was in filing cabinets that were either locked or able to be locked. It was in my house.
Again, they found documents in his garage next to garbage, so obviously another lie. But the special counsel's office did try and make excuses for the resident. When Mr. Biden told his ghostwriter about finding all of the classified stuff downstairs, his tone was matter of fact. For a person who had viewed classified documents nearly every day for 8 years as vice president, finding classified documents at home less than a month after leaving office could have been an unremarkable and forgettable event. So Joe Biden saw classified documents strewn all around his home, didn't think anything of it, and then just forgot that they were there. Got it. But at the same time, he put all of the blame on his staff.
Do you take responsibility for at least being careless with classified material?
I take responsibility for not having seen exactly what my staff was doing. It goes in and points out things that appeared in my garage, things that came out of my home, things that were moved not by me, but my staff.
So not only is Joe Biden not going to take any responsibility for anything, he's going to lie about what the report said in the poorest attempt at gaslighting I've seen in a long time.
And none of it was high classified. Didn't have any of that red stuff on it. You know what I mean? Around the corners? None of that.
Another lie. According to the report, the documents found in Joe Biden's possession had classified markings up to the top secret SCI level.
Why are you confusing the names of world leaders?
I did not share classified information. I did not share it.
With your ghostwriter?
With my ghostwriter, I did not. Guarantee you did not. Well, no, they did not say that.
No, he literally did say that. Mr. Biden shared information, including some classified information, with his ghostwriter.
In addition, I know there's some attention paid to some language in the report about my recollection of events. There's even reference that I don't remember when my son died. How in the hell dare he raise that?
Biden is referring to one of the most stunning passages from the report that states he did not remember, even within several years, when his son Beau died.
Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, it wasn't any of their damn business.
But it was their damn business, because the special counsel was trying to get to the bottom of when and why classified documents were mixed in with personal documents. Here's CNN's Jamie Gangle on the matter.
What we know is that when they go through, there were about 3 or 4 boxes that did not appear once they started going through them to have just personal things. And what they find, a number of records that are unclassified but fall under the Presidential Records Act. And then they find 10 documents that are classified. 99% of what is found in this office is absolutely personal Biden material, including things like the arrangements for his son Beau's funeral, condolence letters.
And I will predict right now that when the audio recordings of Biden's interview are released, and they will be released before the election, that it didn't happen the way that Biden said it did.
Let me tell you something. Some of you have commented, I wear since the day he died, every single day, the rosary he got from Our Lady of...
So it appears that he couldn't remember the church where the rosary came from. And while that's not as bad as forgetting when your son died or when you were vice president, the timing of it was very poor.
Simple truth is I sat for a 5-hour interview over 2 days of events, going back 40 years. At the same time, I was managing an international crisis.
So he's bragging that he was able to sit down with the special counsel while the Middle East was on fire just after the October 7th attacks. But on the other hand, he's suggesting his memory was poor because he was busy managing the response and it was top of mind. He wants to have it both ways, but ultimately, the American people aren't gonna let him. So holding a press conference to defend himself was, to put it mildly, a major miscalculation. And to make matters worse, Joe Biden decided that this was the perfect time to take questions from the media.
President Biden, something the special counsel said in his report is that one of the reasons you were not charged is because, in his description, you are a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory.
I'm well-meaning, and I'm an elderly man, and I know what the hell I'm doing. I've been president, I put this country back on its feet.
Not only does Joe Biden have a poor memory, but he has poor judgment. No one needs to hear the President of the United States say, "I'm an elderly man." Seriously, for all of his faults, no one looks at Donald Trump and says, he's too elderly to be president.
I am a young, vibrant man. I look at Joe. I don't know about him. I don't know.
No, I'm an elderly man.
Anyway, in typical Joe Biden fashion, he yet again resorted to insulting the press because he didn't like their questions.
How bad is your memory, and can you continue as president?
My memory is so bad I let you speak.
Voters have concerns about your age. How are you going to assuage them? And do you fear that this report is only going to fuel further concerns about your age?
Only by some of you.
Mr. President, for months when you were asked about your age, you would respond with the words, "Watch me." Many American people have been watching, and they have expressed concerns about your age.
That is your judgment. That is your judgment. That is not the judgment of the press.
Well, it's certainly the judgment of the American people, because in an ABC News poll conducted right after the release of the Her report and after this disaster of a press conference, a whopping 86% of Americans said that Joe Biden is too old for another term as president. 86%! So eventually, Joe Biden decided to stop taking questions and started to walk out of the room. But then, to the horror of every single Biden administration staffer, he turned around to dump even more fuel on an already raging and out of control fire.
As you know, initially, the president of Mexico, Sisi, did not want to open up the gate to allow humanitarian material to get in.
So the press conference went from, "My memory is fine, and I'm the most qualified person in the country to be president," to, "I asked the president of Mexico to allow humanitarian aid into Gaza." So to recap, he says that he didn't willfully retain top secret classified documents, except that he did. He says that everything was secure in file cabinets that could be locked, but they were in dilapidated boxes next to trash. He says he never shared classified information with anyone, except when he did, and he says his memory is fine, but thinks that Egypt is Mexico. 81 million votes, guys. Anyway, that's it for now. Follow me on X at Don't Walk Run, and while you're at it, subscribe to the channel. A special thanks to Poofy for her input this week, and as always, thanks for tuning in, and I hope to see you next time, if there is a next time.